Hi everyone, welcome to the last session of the Rubin 2021 Project and Community Workshop. I can't believe it's over. I say that every year. In case you hadn't noticed, we had 818 registered people. I think 400 and something was the most we saw on any one plenary session. And it's each of you that have made this workshop an absolute success. And thank you so much for bearing with us as we work through some technical and logistical issues here and there. Thank you for your patience. So the purpose of this last session is to hear from each breakout session that took place. There's a representative allocated to give a 1-minute overview for their one slide for their session. And after that, I will hand over to Victor to wrap up. So let's get started with some friendly reminders. Sorry, this is not the right deck either. Give me one sec.
Yeah,
is it right now?
Good.
That looks good. Thanks. Yeah.
All right, last technical difficulty of the day. Right. So friendly reminders. I know each of you have seen these before. So, you've seen the code of conduct, you agreed to the code of conduct. We do not tolerate any discrimination. And if you see any such behaviors and experience them, you should report through the code of conduct. This last talk is also going to be recorded and posted on the website as per all the others. In Slack, you can show your appreciation for each of the speakers. They will be on rapid fire, 1 minute each. So please show your applause through the emoji or through the Zoom chat here. And you can post questions in either place. Slide deck is also available through the session page. So the breakout slides are ordered per day, and I will be advancing them. So if you're the speaker, please feel free to unmute at least your voice, but also your camera if you wish, and come on and speak to your slide. Now, I know there's lots of updating still going on, so don't worry, I can always quit out of here, refresh, and your slide will appear. So let's get started with Melissa.
Great. In this session, this intro to Rubin session, first I want to thank our presenters, Rand, Paul, Sandrine, Steve, Lauren, and Federica, who covered communications, telescope and site, camera, data management, survey strategy, education, public outreach, and LSST science collaborations. Basically, as many Rubin systems as we can fit into 1 hour, really focusing on jargon, acronyms, and the main takeaways are that there's a glossary, which is your friend, and you can access online, join a science collaboration, use the community forum, find out more on the lsst.org website, and if you like YouTube videos that are short and friendly for beginners, we have a playlist for that.
Giovanni, are you on?
Yes, I am here. Hello, buenas tardes. During our safe construction during a pandemic, holding on Monday, we talk about the balancing that the safety coordinators team are providing between the industrial safety and the sanitary COVID-19 safety situation, and promoting that during the construction and integration and commissioning, the philosophy that the safety is a value associated with everything we do. And also we, at the end of the session, the presentation, we are on an open discussion about the near future challenger from the approach of safety, especially those ones that involve a critical task for the project at the summit in Chile. Thank you.
Thank you, Giovanni. Chuck Claver, you're up.
Thanks, Ranpal. So we had a session on the system integration test commissioning and updated on activities and things going on. We had more than 200 plus in attendance. Thank you very much. That was a well-attended session. Covered a multitude of topics, including welcoming new members and changes to the internal organization, updating of the key milestones, and on-sky planning, a series of highlights of technical progress. I won't go through each one of these, but a highlight to me was the completion of the 6 filters for the LSST cam. You can see the curves plotted there. Those are not theoretical curves anymore. Those are as measured, as built. as delivered. All the filters are in the hands of the camera team as we speak. Lots of progress on the Oxtel and the software integration. And one thing I was not able to share on Monday, because it hadn't happened yet, was there's a major milestone with ComCam. And you see the picture on the right-hand side of ComCam being integrated onto the cart assembly in the hexapod rotator. That occurred on Wednesday while we were all doing our PCW thing, and it was a raging success. And that's a huge milestone for us, so that's great. We've also covered science verification and system verification topics, and then we concluded with a summary of what's coming up on the horizon in the next year or so regarding to the sitcom efforts. So that's the summary of our breakout. Rand Powell.
Thanks, Chuck. All right, Rachel.
So in this session on Monday, we announced the launch of LINCC, the LSST Interdisciplinary Network for Collaboration and Computing, an LSSTC program to support the science community as it prepares for analysis of LSST data and to expand access to the discovery space for traditionally underserved groups. LINCC includes infrastructure to support community development of analysis software that works at LSST scale and complexity. We are very happy to announce a new software program funded by the Schmidt Futures Foundation. LINCC includes support for early career scientists. There will be a separate summary of a session about postdoctoral fellowships. And it includes community engagement opportunities. So there's funding and computing resources to enable members of the science community to engage with everything I just mentioned. So this is all pretty new. This is a launch. So please stay tuned for opportunities for the LSST science collaborations and broader community to learn more and get involved with these newly approved programs. Thanks.
Thank you, Rachel.
In this session, yes, in this session, we announced formally the selection of 7 community alert brokers who will receive the real-time alerts from the LSST in operations. They're listed here. 2 additional brokers expect to operate downstream of those full stream brokers. And we hope that other new facilities will be built as well. And we invited all of the teams to present and discuss opportunities for engagement as we move towards commissioning and operations.
Thank you. Alicia.
Hi there. So I led a session about building inclusive practices at your home institution. And I really want to thank everyone who took time out of their science priority schedules and devoted time to learning more about this. 2 things that I want to highlight from the session are results from polls that I took of the participants. And the first one that I want to point out is that was a poll that was kind of asking folks to rate what they think reflects their current organization or working group. And I left that open to interpretation. And 70, close to 80% of participants feel like their organizations, their working groups have a diversity awareness, they have an organizational culture change, but they don't know what to do. They don't know what to start. It's an intellectual struggle. So I want to point that out as we move forward when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, is that that is our current perception of our working groups and organizations. Another thing I want to point out are the top 3 things that people feel that would be successful to improve diversity and inclusion in their groups. The first is support. Supportive leadership, supportive community, support financial, collaborative opportunities. And of course, the third one is community, right? How are these things related? All of these 3 things, plus others that people voted on, are considered essential to the success of goals to improve diversity and inclusion.
Thanks, Alicia. All right, who's talking to this one?
I will be doing that. So at the low surface brightness session, we started with a quick summary of the low surface brightness working group by Sarah Bruff, For those interested, we do have a web page as well as a Slack space, and anyone's welcome to join. We've been focusing on 4 challenges in LSP: detection of LSP features, getting distances to LSP features, measuring ICL, and measuring title features. We then moved on to a quick summary of the pipeline by Lee Kelvin, everything from instrumental signature removal up to co-edition, as well as an overview of the various data products that are available, plus some asides about a sky over subtraction issue, as well as the development of pseudo objects for measuring background statistics. And then finally, he ended with a talk about synthetic source injection work, mainly the development of metrics to start regularly tracking the performance of different aspects of the pipeline. I then gave a short talk about some early work that I've done on developing a potentially more LSP friendly sky subtraction algorithm that could be used to help with that over subtraction issue. And we finally ended with a series of short talks, which are broadly grouped into 3 categories: current science being done, observational as well as theoretical. We had a number of talks on those. Prospective projects to be done with LSST, and then also a number of talks on synergy with other surveys being done now or in the future. And that was everything.
Thank you. Eric, you're up again.
We had a session on time series variability features, which Rubin is going to pre-compute in alert production and data release production. And so we're aiming to update the baseline feature set to make sure we're capturing the full range of science that Rubin will deliver. And so we're welcoming feedback through a variety of channels, which you can see here on the slides. Thanks.
Thank you, Eric. Chuck Claver.
So this is Keith Bechtel. I'll speak to this slide. So this is on the commissioning announcement of opportunity for community engagement at the Rubin Observatory. So you can find the full announcement at the link on this page. As a reminder, this is an opportunity for US and Chilean LSST science communities to directly join the project commissioning team and make value-added contributions. It seems like there's a lot of interest based on the number of people who attended this session and who've been asking questions and who filled out the indication of interest web form. So far, we've had 13 groups respond, as many as 70 to 80 individuals, depending on how you count. So thanks a lot for that interest. We'll leave this web form open through the end of today. Again, it's optional, but it's helpful for us for planning and for giving feedback. There's links to Q&A that might be helpful if you're thinking about applying, and the full letters of interest are due on the 1st of October. So we look forward to hearing from you all more.
Great, deadline today. Good to know. All right, Amanda, lightning stories.
Hello, we had 8 fantastic lightning stories that you would have seen early Tuesday and Wednesday morning. So I want to thank the coordinating team, Amy, Rampal, Emily, and well, myself. Our speakers were Angela, Sandra, Richard, and Margot on Tuesday. On Wednesday, they were Blake, Tue, Carola, and Jeff. You can go and see these lightning stories all recorded on YouTube now. So thank you very much, volunteers.
Thanks, Amanda. And just side note, we fixed the closed captions. Sorry for them being so terrible the first time around, but we have gone in and fixed them. Melissa.
Yes, the Rubin Research Bytes is something we do during the virtual PCWs in place of a poster session. So mostly I just want to thank all of the speakers that we had contribute flash talks to this session, and especially all the moderators who showed up to manage their timing and manage the Q&As. And thanks everyone else for also attending this session. I saw lots of you go into the breakout rooms and it looks like it went really well.
Thanks, Melissa. Meg.
So I'm representing the SAC. We had an open discussion at the meeting focusing on communication modes. So we're really thankful to Ron Paul, Melissa, and Amanda for going through and answering our questions and demonstrating some of the communication channels and how they interact. And so some of the open questions we talked about in the session, including how best to coordinate that information, thinking about how do we make things more easily searchable, and how do people who don't necessarily know the jargon be able to move around. And so we recommended developing maybe a one-page summary of these channels. And a project is planning a poll to assess how Rubin information is received and digested and on what channels. So we'll continue discussions in our regular SAC meetings going into the fall. Thanks.
Thanks, Meg. All right, who's next? Is it Chris? Sorry, I don't know your.
Yeah, Chris. Chris Usher. We had an excellent session on star cluster science with LSST, where we talked about both the science that would be enabled and ranging from brown dwarfs in nearby open clusters to clover clusters in the Milky Way bulge, to the history of the Magellanic Clouds, to the dark matter content of nearby galaxies, and also talked about some of the technical aspects, including synergies with Euclid and how we can identify globular clusters. Thanks.
Thank you. Is it Keith this time?
Yes, hi, this is Keith. So here's an update on the commissioning observing strategy. First off, we want to express our deep thanks to all the groups that provided input or submitted commissioning notes in response to the call for input. We read in detail the notes from 5 different science collaborations. As a reminder, the baseline of our on-sky observing campaigns during commissioning includes some limited, but hopefully some science quality imaging during the integration and test with ComCam and LSSTCam, and then 2 months of sustained observing, which we call the SV surveys. In these commissioning notes, there were many well-motivated concepts for technical and scientific investigations. In fact, many more than we can do. So we'll be considering some balance between how to maximize coverage of external data sets, and astrophysical targets of interest versus a more coherent survey, and try to do a little bit of both. As far as next steps, the commissioning liaisons continue to be very valued points of contact, sharing the interests of the science collaborations. We will continue to welcome updates to the commissioning notes or submitting a new note for the next couple of months. And then as we get closer to on-sky observations, probably 3 to 6 months before the start of observations with ComCam, we'll be assembling a menu of candidate target fields, and we'll release that menu for people to start planning. Thanks.
Thank you. Jacques, you have 3 minutes for 9 slides.
Yes, thank you, Rampal. So I'm going to be talking about 3 sessions. These are the Chile Spanish talks, happened on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. This is the second time we're doing this. Last time we did it, everybody was basically online, but this time we had people also on the summit. So I'm just going to go quickly. On Tuesday, we had Franco. You can see here on the right, was talking mainly about the global interlock system we call the GIS. Next slide, please. Then we had Mario Rivera and Claudio Araya. You can see here on the picture, basically focusing on how we are cleaning our mirrors on the auxiliary telescope. And I'm showing you just pictures of everyone just so that you get the interest of going and looking at their presentation. Next slide, please. And this is Juan Fabrega. He also focused on the maintenance of critical equipment we have on the summit. Next slide, please. On Wednesday, we had another set of 3 presenters. Here, this is Hernan Herrera. He's basically working on the dome, and he gave us a very good presentation on the dome status and where we are with the construction. Next slide. On following Hernan, we had Felipe Darwish. He's our senior electronic engineer, and he did a very nice presentation on the hexapods and rotator. And if you have time to look at it, there is a nice video. I just took a little screenshot here showing how you have this huge machine using also a hexapod and rotator for different applications. Next slide, please. This is David Jimenez. He's one of our newest employees in Chile, and he's been focusing on the Danielin system, and he's given a very nice presentation on how the system works. For people who are interested, I recommend to go see his presentation. And on Thursday, next slide, please. We started with Tommy Vucina. He's our coding expert here in Chile. And he gave a very nice presentation just on magnetrons and how they work.
These are the systems we use for coding the mirrors. If you're interested with this, I advise you to learn about how these magnetrons work. Next slide, please. Luis Vergara, he's our expert in all of HVAC system on the summit. This is a system we've been using a lot recently in order to control the temperature in the dome. And he's given a very detailed presentation on all of that system. And finally, Freddie Munoz, next slide. Freddie is very involved with the TMA right now, the telescope mount assembly, and he explained to us the hydraulics and the dynamics of that system. That's it. Thank you very much.
Jack. Great. Right, who's talking to this one?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great, thank you. So on Tuesday, we had a session on early science with Rubin. The first thing that I want to do is to clearly define what we mean by early science. Early science is defined as all science enabled up to and including data release 1. The early science will be enabled by two sets of data products. The first is the data release data products for static science. This will include data from the commissioning science verification surveys and will be made available through data previews 1 and 2. It will also include data from the first 6 months of observing, which will be made available through data release 1. In addition, we have the prompt data products, which are produced by difference image analysis. These include alerts to detections of transient, variable, and moving objects, as well as images and catalogs. As many of you know, difference image analysis requires templates in order to operate, a template for each pointing in each filter. And templates are produced through data release processing, which means that prior to data release 1, in principle, we won't have templates, so we won't be able to run difference image analysis. And this would have a big impact on the early science we can do with Rubin. Over the past year or so, data management has been looking at how we could progressively build templates during commissioning and in the first year of operations. And during the session on Tuesday, we confirmed that the operations project will focus during commissioning and year 1 on progressively building as many templates as possible, as fast as possible for difference image analysis, and that during year 1, we will run what we've been calling incremental template building. This will enable us to progressively build up a template library and to enable more and more early science as we move through year 1 towards the data releases. There are still many open issues with how we're going to build these templates during year 1, including things like trading off covering a larger sky area versus filters and the quality of the templates that we would use during year 1. And these issues will be discussed in the coming years. We have been very happy to receive input from the community already on some of these issues, what they would prefer for their science, more filters, more sky coverage, which filters, comments about the template quality that they could work with in year 1 versus the science they would get. We thank all the science collaborations who've committed, who've given us input so far, and we will continue to work with the community to optimize early science for Rubin. Thank you.
Thanks, Leanne.
This session aimed to initiate a long-term discussion of Rubin-wide needs and opportunities with the broader data science community. The 3 breakout rooms came to a few concrete conclusions. There are many machine learning and statistics methodologies being used across the science collaborations, and it would be valuable to have workshops, tutorials, and other guidance as to best practices. Though the field of informatics is evolving rapidly, there's a time-sensitive need for tools to be standardized and for workflow management and for data models. And we identified opportunities to better support collaboration between the Rubin science collaborations and the data science community with a repository of data challenge design resources, some kind of follow-up structure for data challenges, and coordination for interdisciplinary grant proposals. Anyone who's interested should tune in on the LSSTC Slack to stay in the loop as we investigate all these new possibilities.
Thank you. Jenna, are you on for this?
Yes. In our session, we made the formal announcement of a new postdoctoral fellowship. It's called the LSSTC Catalyst Fellowship, and attendees at our session, and you here at the PCW this week, were the first to officially hear about this fellowship. The press release is just coming out today. So for those who are considering applying for a postdoctoral fellowship, or if you have students or colleagues, I strongly recommend that you go to the LSSTC webpage in September. That's when the fellowship webpage will be launched, and all of this information will be available. How to apply and how to register for a workshop on October 8th, a virtual workshop to learn more and to help you strengthen your application. Just briefly, this will be a fellowship that will have all the lovely perks of some of the well-known astrophysics fellowships and more. We will seek to select every year a diverse, excellent, balanced cohort of 5 fellows with their research focused on LSST. The postdoc will also be cross-disciplinary, so there'll be some social science fellows participating as well to work with the astrophysicists to help not only do top-tier science, but also improve the way science is done. Fellows will have a large choice of host institutions. It's connected to the LINCC program, working on developing software platforms and infrastructures that Rachel Mandelbaum discussed earlier. It will have some structured mentorship and leadership training. So keep this in mind, and please come to the LSSTC website in early September to get more details.
Thank you, Jenna. Phil.
Thanks, everyone. As you probably all know, Rubin now has an in-kind program where international teams outside the US and Chile are making and will be making in-kind contributions of telescope time, data sets, software development effort, computing resources, all with the purpose of adding value to the LSST science enterprise. This was proposed by the teams last fall, reviewed by the Contribution Evaluation Committee, thank you very much, and very recently approved by the Rubin Management Board. So the session on Tuesday was all about how to get started with your contributions, how to make a contribution if you're a contributing team, how to receive an in-kind contribution if you're one of the groups in which these contributions will be embedded in order to add value to LSST science. So we had about 80 participants. We managed to spend about half the session in Q&A, which was great. And we had some very good questions showing that the international teams and the recipients are really getting to grips with what it will take to make a really high value contribution to LSST. And what the message we saw there was in-kind contributors are going to be joining teams out in the science collaborations or at Rubin. They're going to be collaborative, they're going to communicate well, and they'll be using a quarterly work planning and annual performance evaluation system in order to make sure their contributions are successful.
Thank you. Okay.
Hello, everyone. As most of you know, we have a committee named the Survey Cadence Optimization Committee, or SCOC. And this committee is empowered to make recommendations to the Rubin Observatory Operations Director on the strategy for starting the Legacy Survey of Space and Time, LSST, sometime in 2024. So we have about 2 years to finalize our plans. Our plan is to develop this recommendation in 2 phases. And the point of this session was to introduce the draft of SCOC Phase 1 recommendation. So I can't go through all the details in 1 minute, but if you're interested in survey strategy optimization, please follow this link to this 15-page document. And there you will find many more details and many more links to other relevant documents. And as always, if you have questions about this topic, you can ask them on LSST community, or if that's not appropriate for some reason, you can send email directly to me and we can discuss details. Thank you, Rempal.
Thanks. All right, Celeste, you're up again.
Thank you. I led another session on Wednesday, specifically talking about how we as a community and individuals can step up and intervene in problematic social situations, as well as how to be an ally. again, I'm showing the results of some polls I took and the reason why this conversation was so necessary. And I want to point you to the on the left-hand side where according to people polled, 77% of participants have witnessed covert or subtle discrimination in the workplace since starting work in their STEM fields. 63% witnessed favoritism. Verbal harassment, almost 70% of participants witnessed that throughout their careers. And why it's so I point to those things to illustrate how important it is to learn these skills, how important it is to take responsibility for victims as everyone a part of the LSST community. And the other presentation or the other poll results I would like to point you out to is that specifically in the bottom right-hand corner where it says, it is my responsibility to intervene when I notice a problem situation. I would like to remind everybody that 80% of participants and over several workshops, up to 88% of participants agree that it is their responsibility. So let's take that mode of thinking and let's make it a reality. It is our responsibility to intervene in a problem situation. It is all of our responsibility to be an ally.
Thank you, Alicia. Peter.
Okay, so this is the second session on survey strategy. We debuted and kind of gave a sneak peek of our latest baseline 2.0, and there you can see our new footprint that we've modified based on responses from the community. In this session, we went over kind of our plans for upcoming experiments and different survey strategies that we're going to test based on recommendations from the SCOC. We're planning on having a workshop November 16th and 17th to gather feedback from these experiments. So if you have strong opinions on survey strategy, please come to that workshop. And a lot of this work has been driven by scientific metrics from the community. That's why we've been able to optimize these new strategies so well, but we're always looking for more. So if you have strong opinions on how to optimize Rubin survey strategy, get in touch with us and we'll show you how to analyze our simulations. Thanks.
Thanks, Peter. Meredith.
Hi there. So I led a session about Rubin and satellite constellations on Wednesday, and we had several wonderful speakers, and it was so great that we didn't have any time for questions. So if you're curious about some of the follow-up discussion that ensued, you can look at the Slack channel from that session. There was a lot of in-depth conversation and threads about all the different issues here. Briefly, this is not news, but in a world with tens of thousands of low Earth orbit satellites, there's nothing that we can do mitigation-wise to completely avoid impacts on Rubin science. This is one of the key takeaways from the SATCON 1 conference that happened about a year ago. That Tony Tyson reviewed at the beginning of our session. After that, we had Rachel Street, who spoke about all of the different things that happened at SATCON 2 just last month. There's going to be a report coming soon from that conference, so please stay tuned. One interesting takeaway is that there is some movement beginning to happen in the policy world. Many, not all, but many stakeholders agreed that low Earth orbit should be considered an environment, which I think is important. I had an undergraduate of mine from University of Washington give a brief talk about the new Trailblazer tool that we are working on, which I'd be happy to talk about further if anyone has questions. Andrew Bradshaw gave an update from the camera team. They're doing a lot of good work to mitigate electronic crosstalk from the brighter streaks, because realistically, we're not going to be able to get them all to be as faint as we would like at all phases of their life. The data management team, presented by Claire Saunders, has a great streak detection and masking algorithm that's being developed. This won't solve everything, but there's a tech note that's coming soon that I need to review that will explain all of that, all that work. And then finally, I didn't just encourage folks who attended the session and the broader community to keep in mind that the impacts of these bright satellites are a lot broader than you think. There are opportunities to reach out to policymakers about this issue at all levels. Michelle Bannister spoke to this at the end of our session, and in particular to recognize this is not just Starlink internet versus astronomy. It is much broader and more nuanced than that. There is a Dark and Quiet Skies 2 conference coming up this October that'll be in a hybrid format. You can attend remotely, although it's kind of in the middle of the night. And if you're interested in getting more involved in this issue, please check that out. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Meredith. Lauren.
Yeah, so Chris Lintott ran a great session where of the Zooniverse, where we talked about citizen science and the benefits that it can have for your science and also for the general public at large. And some things that we wanted to highlight are that Rubin and Zooniverse are working together to help you create citizen science projects using Rubin data. So EPO with DM are making tools and documentation that will make it easy to set up a project on the Zooniverse platform. And in operations, the community engagement team will have 2 staff positions focused on support for citizen science. So this is something that we're dedicating resources to help you create these projects. But you don't need to wait until the data is available. Right now, you can go to zooniverse.org/lab and build an example or test project if you want to start planning in advance for how you could use citizen science. And if you do, it would be useful to hear from you. Experiments and advanced projects, including integration with brokers, incorporating machine learning, and targeting serendipity are already underway. And again, if you have any interest or questions, please reach out to Chris Lintott on Slack or to a member of EPO.
Thank you. Christian.
Thank you, Repan. So in the cybersecurity session, we talk about the evolution of hackers in the public eye and its relationship with how easy it is to be a hacker now because information is freely available. We also discuss about the IT defense strategies, prevention, making Rubin difficult to attack, detection, detect, diagnose, and response to the attack, and resilience. The Rubin services must be running despite the attack. And because cybersecurity is difficult, if we IT try to defend everything, we will end up defending nothing. So we need your help, and especially from Rubin software developers. And finally, congratulations to Russ Albery for winning the cybersecurity trivia game.
Thank you. Ian, on to board games.
And now for something completely different. So Wednesday afternoon, about 20 of us met for social chat and playing a variety of board games. I managed to collect screenshots of a few of the games, including one with everyone deep in concentration playing Seven Wonders, and a few other games that I wasn't able to get shots of, and but we had fun. And this is a DM tradition at the PCWs to meet after hours for some games and meeting up socially. And I very much hope to play games with people in person at a future meeting.
Thank you to Ian and the whole social organizing committee. Thanks a lot. Sarah.
Yeah, thank you. This third session on service strategy was organized by myself, but I want to thank all the organizers, Rachel Will, Federica Angelica Dragana, Maribel Ilaria, and also the SEOC and OPSIM expert, Peter, Knut, and Jay. At these links here, you can find the live notes and the slides, but anyone is very welcome to continue contributing with open issues, questions, and feedback to be prepared before the SEOC meeting next November. After my brief talk on the past activity, the work done, and the metrics provided by the science collaborations through the task forces, we had a lot of talks. Here you can find the topics and the name of the speakers. And I want to thank again all the speakers, all the attendees for the fruitful discussion. It was highlighted the huge work done by Peter and Lynn to providing us a lot of simulation and theopsims. And for the future, we will continue working in particular in the task force in all the science collaborations. Here you can see some examples. And for the future, we need to strategize how to incorporate all the metrics that the community has created from all the science collaboration in the SEOC decision framework. Thank you.
Thank you. Andy.
Thanks, Rampal. So this session was about the Active Optics System, or AOS, for Rubin. The AOS analyzes out-of-focus images, or donuts, as you can see on the figures on the right-hand side of the screen, which are observed by the wavefront sensors at the corners of the Rubin camera. And we use these to work out to correct the shapes and positions of the mirrors using a large number of actuators with the goal of kind of improving the overall image quality. So the session itself, we had a series of show and tell talks from the AOS developers and also from others in the community who were working on different AOS methodologies. These included talks on the status of AOS, simulations of in and out of focus images. We had talks on new approaches for modeling of out of focus donuts using geometric techniques and deep neural networks. We had talks about relating the out of focus images to the delivered image quality and even AOS using fiber-fed spectrographs. So the takeaway from this is going to be that the AOS team will be following up on a number of the techniques that were presented and discussed in the session, and we're going to use that as we continue to develop the AOS system itself. Thanks.
Thanks, Andy.
Yesterday, we gave a highlights reel of just some of the updates we've made in science pipelines over the last year. If you're a current user, the one that you should be most aware of is that we are now using Generation 3 middleware. Look out on our landing page, pipelines.lsst.io. You'll see the Getting Started guide will be updated shortly this fall. If you want to get your hands on some real science pipelines outputs, please take a look at Data Preview 0. Applications for this is going to be coming out early 2022. For a data release mid-2022, Science Pipelines is in production on simulated data and other precursor surveys as well. And finally, we welcome your feedback and questions on community. Thank you.
Thanks, Yusra. Lauren.
On Thursday, the EPO team ran a session where we reviewed the program that we've been building as a way to bring Rubin Observatory to a broader general public community. So that program includes things like the public-facing website for operations, interactive data experiences, Skyviewer, classroom activities, citizen science, which I've mentioned, communications, and multimedia resources. So if you're interested, please reach out to us or go and watch the talk. But to also point out that we're finishing construction in this coming fiscal year. And so these things are all really wrapping up and we're getting close to when people are going to start using these tools. We're very excited.
Thanks, Lauren. Andres.
Gracias, Rampal. So yesterday and today we organized an anti-racism workshop, and it was facilitated by an organization called the BIPOC Project. It was financially supported by the LSST Corporation, Aura, and Noir Lab. We had limited spots, but there was high interest. It was oversubscribed, and hopefully we can fund more of these type of workshops in the future with larger participation. There is a Slack channel that is open to everyone, and I encourage you to look there for reading material, and the slides will be shared as well. And the desired outcomes of the workshop were to produce a shared language for understanding and addressing white supremacy and anti-Black racism as foundational to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Rubin, to provide a deeper awareness of the ways in which anti-Black racism shows up in ourselves, in society, and in our organizations, and to provide initial steps to undo anti-Black racism to advance racial equity and build a pro-Black scientific future. So today we broke up in breakout rooms, and there was a call for urgency for action. And based on questions like how does anti-Black racism show up in Rubin, what strategies will help you remove barriers or implementing promising practices, and more importantly, concrete ideas. What will we do tomorrow? And this needs to be a priority in Rubin and be present at all times and every time we make decisions as we move from construction into operations. If Rubin is serious about addressing anti-Black racism, includes, for example, guiding disaggregated data to track progress and to hold ourselves accountable. And I wanted to point out that no matter your role that you play in what we call the Rubin ecosystem, there are always actions that you can do to dismantle white supremacy and address anti-Black racism. Even if you're in a hiring committee or in allocating resources, sitting at the table with the funding agency, or even if you're just maybe writing papers of software, at any point, ask yourself, what can you do to address this? And the most important thing is to go beyond incremental changes and put the lessons learned in this workshop into action. And I wanted to close with one of the quotes by one of the facilitators that says, if we are not intentionally disrupting the status quo, we are unintentionally upholding a racist status quo. Thank you.
Thanks, Andres. And thank you to Frederica and Andres for organizing that workshop. All right, Jeff.
Yeah, so I'm speaking to you on behalf of the community engagement team, and in particular, Melissa Graham, who led this session, which was intended mostly to introduce those of you who are not familiar with the community engagement team to our purpose, which in a nutshell is to enable and maximize the scientific impact of Rubin. We do this in a number of ways by facilitating access to an analysis of data products and services, and coordinating expertise to sort of resolve issues, to improve things, and to enable science in general. And one of the most important aspects of this, I think, is we endeavor to ensure a diverse, welcoming, and collaborative community. And it really is in the case of, when we have thousands of users, it is very important that we have a community that can be sharing information, talking amongst themselves, collaborating. And the main forum, which we went through in this session in some detail, Melissa gave a tour of the community forum, which is at community.lsst.org. And that is a place where, now that you are energized after this PCW, you can go and start conversations at the community forum, or continue the conversations that you have begun. And then finally, we just want to highlight that there are a variety of opportunities for you to engage right now, of which we listed quite a few here at the bottom of the slide, including the links, so you can go directly to those. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. All right, who is speaking next?
It's me again. Thanks, Rampel. So in this session, we explored external synergies between Rubin LSST and other surveys. We started out by making it clear what we mean when we talk about external synergies. External synergies aim to enable new science through two ways: combined analysis of pixel level data from Rubin and other surveys such as Euclid, Roman, SphereX, CMB, radio and millimeter facilities, etc., and to produce cross-survey data products that will augment or improve the science return of all the surveys involved. And also through the coordination of survey observations to maximize the overlap between surveys, or to synchronize observations across specific fields, for example, deep drilling fields. We heard from quite a few surveys that I've listed here. Julie gave us a talk about Roman. Roman is in the process of putting together a process to define the major surveys via an open community process. This will open up ample opportunities to consider synergies with Rubin in the near term. An RFI will be released in the next couple of months that will solicit input on whether to define one of the smaller surveys of Roman, for example, a deep field now or later. So this is something that I think Rubin scientists should look out for. There's a lot of scope here to give input in terms of survey external synergies with Roman. The Rubin Euclid Derived Data Products Working Group was charged about 9 months ago with designing an initial set of DDPs, and is currently now starting to wrap that up and is in the report writing phase. So a report will be coming very soon on what both Rubin and Euclid will recommend as an initial set of derived data products across both surveys. The observing and release schedules of Rubin and Euclid overlap very strongly, and this presents huge opportunities for synergies between both of them and to improve the science of both surveys. We then heard about radio. We had a talk on radio and millimeter science and some of the upcoming facilities. Many of these facilities that I've listed here will also overlap with LSST, and combining Rubin data products with observations in the radio and millimeter can enable science across cosmology, galaxy evolution, and time domain astrophysics. So this is also a very interesting area to start looking at. Finally, we heard from ZTF. The current program ZTF2 is projected to end at the end of, or in September, in fact, 2021. ZTF3 program, which is not yet confirmed, but I think that the project is confident that it will be, would overlap for at least the first few years of LSST. Matthew Graham presented to us a way in which ZTF could fill in the cadence gaps in the equatorial regions with high cadence observations from ZTF, and these could be co-added to get to approximately 23 in magnitude. ZTF is also looking forward to using the LSST observations to provide pre-discovery data points for supernovae and to hopefully capture their death omens.
Thanks, Leanne. Is it Knut talking on this one?
Yes, thanks. Yeah, so in this session on independent data access centers organized by me and by Luis da Costa with support from others in Rubin, We had 3 goals. One was to introduce IDACs, so they're part of the Rubin in-kind program. And the recommended program that we have now that is awaiting data rights agreement approval should expand the CPU and storage resources available to US users by a factor of several, but it's important to note not under one roof and nor on one platform. So that is one of the challenges that we have to address. Second goal was to connect with others in the IDACs coordination group. We had participation from many of the IDAC providers at the session, so I think we addressed that goal and have been and will continue to communicate through community.lsst.org. And then finally, we had a goal of getting feedback from the different stakeholders, the users, the providers, and Rubin staff on how to best address this issue of having all these resources, but not under one roof or on one platform in a sensible, technically feasible, and supportable way. And this is an important discussion that we're really just starting. Stay tuned for that. And in fact, I'll be updating the slides that we presented with some of the changes from that discussion. So thank you.
Thank you, Knut. Julia.
Hello. Today in the Photo Z for LSST objects session, Melissa addressed the data management roadmap to Photo Zs for LSST objects and advertised for people who advocate for a particular Photo Z algorithm to submit a letter of recommendation to DM. The deadline is September 30, and the link on the bottom on the bottom left will direct you to a post in the community forum with all the details and the templates for the LOR. And then I presented about Linear's in-kind contributions related to Photo Zs, which includes data management tools customized to handle Photo Z related metadata, and also Photo Z tables for LSST objects with federated data sets in the IDEX network. And I pass to,
and the third part of it was the roadmaps of Rubin DM and Desk have a common need for software infrastructure to compute and validate Photo Z data products. And for that purpose, Desk has been developing the Redshift Assessment Infrastructure Layers Code, or RAIL. RAIL is publicly available on GitHub and invites use by and contributions from the entire Rubin community. No science collaboration membership required. So please check it out.
Thank you. Rossi.
Hi, so we had 2 RSP sessions this morning. This was one of them. This was aimed at our users, sadly with a virtual copy. It was really great to see people show up for using the Science platform, either in internal or external deployments, and people had nice things to say as well, which was lovely. Things that I think we all, both sides, kind of felt bad about not having and that we are prioritizing is we need a little bit of documentation guiding people on how to install their own software in the notebook aspect and how to get out of trouble if it runs into a problem and how to make them more robust. So we agree this is something that we need to work on sooner rather than later as we're adding new users. There was a discussion of user bulk download, that is the ability of a user to actually download large or complete kind of catalog sets. This is not in the requirements, but we do understand that it keeps coming up. There is a kind of a minimum bar here that I'm fairly confident we could meet even without it being in the requirements in construction, which is to download, offer download of Parquet catalogs that are properly sharded. And we obviously during operations, we will always be alert on how to improve services in this area. There's questions about GPU. Again, there's a lot. They're not in the construction requirements. They're not currently planned. Some IDEX will offer GPUs capabilities outside the RSP context. And again, this is something that as we go forward during operations, we're going to be alert on low impact ways to provide to users. And the universally desired planned file system that would be a share between your local device and your RSP notebook is something we still very, very much hope to get to. It would be a huge usability aid for our users. We've just been having trouble scheduling that work, so hang on in there for a little bit longer.
Thanks, Rossi.
Yeah.
Massimo speaking. During the session, we basically discussed the same galactic bulge region for which there is a nice data set taken with the DECAM. And this was independently reduced by the Rubin LSST pipelines and some community members, focusing on either on variable stars and on static stars. And to the very end, the outcome was that in this kind of so crowded regions, PSI photometry is absolutely essential, and Rubin LSST is going to provide some ad hoc reductions for photometry, different images analysis pipeline, and some aspects of the reduction that support different analysis are required for the project. For example, you can check the Collins later talk, and also specialized reduction for crowded stellar fields should be done on a best effort basis. And now LSST science platform does have a working prototype for crowded stellar fields, and it was successfully applied to DECAM bulge data. Now it can handle very crowded regions, and with a good announcement in both in speed and performance. And also we cross-checked our photometry collected with the whole frame, performed with the frame with the image analysis, and roughly the 70% of the variables of the DIA analysis were found here compared to the frame reduction. Of course, these numbers have to be normalized. At the end, community is going to provide the specific directable and kind contributions. And this means tools for variable star detection and characterization, and also possible or frame reduction of selected areas. And here you see the links to the live notes and to the Slack channel. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I want to let people know that we are running a little bit over, but please hang in there because Victor does have a wrap-up presentation coming after this. So, Frosty.
Hi, thank you. And this is the kind of the second RSP session, which was aimed at developers who are actively working and deploying the RSP in our data facilities. This was a periodic session that will be a permanent fixture of future PCWs because there's increasing interest on how the platform is built. From Rubin, we actually shared our near-term development updates and immediate plans for the fall. The major highlight to take home there is that we still have a lot of work to do in the NA area, but we're going to backburner that for a bit in order to focus on image services. France, Bastien reported for INGP3. They have their 25-node cluster up with an RSP running on it. They wish to deploy without internet connectivity, and it was definitely not built to do that. So they're getting around that for a bit by actually giving it direct internet access, but they would like to go through an internet proxy. And we are currently operating a Vault service for both France and the UK, and they're both planning on moving into their own development there. And Stelios called in from his vacation in Greece, so we appreciate him doing that, to give us the update for the UK deployment. They are deployed on Iris infrastructure, essentially running Kubernetes on top of OpenStack. They already have given early access to the UK research and development teams to their science platform instance, and are now looking to actually integrate it with their own QServe instance. So great progress. Very good to see all these teams working so hard and getting by with without much kind of documentation and productization effort from us at this stage. So we really appreciate their efforts.
Thanks, Rossi. I just wanted to hand over to Steph to give us a quick overview on how the campaign went for the week. You're muted.
Of course. So you might have noticed in the Slack channel or the Slack team, there was a specific RUBIN channel. And so this was a week-long Slack and Twitter campaign, but it mostly happened on Slack with different daily themes each day to get to know each other a little bit better. And so throughout the course of the week, there were 125 messages, about 15 additional ones on Twitter. And those messages came from 44 different contributors, and we had over 400 viewers on the channel. So we met bikers, artists, musicians, animal lovers, Lego builders, gardeners, knitters, bakers, brewers, and many more. We saw lots of pets and office decor. We saw the results of some coding projects and some views from people's offices. And we also heard, but maybe the better way to say it is we read about people's origin stories. We read about their hobbies. We did hear some concert recordings, but we also heard people's inspiration and why they are here with us. And we heard about some excitement for next steps. So this was really fun. I enjoyed getting to know all of you and seemed to get a good response from people. So thank you so much to everybody for participating in this campaign.
And thank you, Steph, for the initiative. All right, Victor, I think that is the last slide, so you can take over the screen share.
Thanks, Rampal, and thank you to all of the speakers this last hour. These were great summaries. I really appreciate the summaries of what was clearly a really productive week. Let me see if I can share these last few slides. Hopefully you see a final announcements slide. And, excellent. So while we were having clearly a very productive week, I just wanted to point out that there were other things going on. And I want to really start off by extending our thoughts to our colleagues in Santiago. I was really sad to hear about this significant fire at the Instituto de Astrofísica at the San Joaquin campus of Universidad Católica. This was clearly a significant event, and we're happy to hear from the rector, Ignacio Sanchez, that this was just, well, not just, but there was facility damage, material damage, but happily nobody was hurt. So again, our sympathies to everybody that was affected by this tragedy. You already heard about this actual success. Sort of switching gears here quickly. Chuck just mentioned that while we were meeting, that in Chile on Wednesday, the team did successfully integrate ComCam, the structure off the black structure and the black frame on the left, and successfully mounted that onto the integrating structure in the cart, which is, as Chuck pointed out, a really big event. Also, I should point out that while we were all convening, there were about 60 people on average on the summit every day, doing the things that people on the summit do. This week was particularly a bit of housekeeping and a lot of dome work. And we're really happy that team continued to progress and move the project forward. It's also very interesting that the Chilean Minister of Science, Mr. Andres Cuve, was on site this week and apparently had a really nice tour as part of an activity that he's doing to visit many of the construction sites for new observatories in Chile. So we're happy to have that visit. Look forward to more of those to come. And then just wanted to point out a few things as we were all sort of really engaged in Rubin and the activities looking forward. I did want to point out that the project team has, as usual, a healthy set of activities going forward. And we'll hear about, or you may hear about, the work that Vincent Rio and his team at Slack are going to be doing with the CD4, which is the final review of the camera MIE project. So that's a huge and significant milestone. We have our annual joint status review that's coming up in October, which is a great opportunity for the entire project to get together and talk to both agencies about the status. But that, of course, is quite an effort on the part of the team. And then you heard me talk on Monday about the status of rebaselining. That work will continue. But even as we finish that and put the revised proposal in, I will point out that it will be months before we get final approval. And so this will be the storyline for quite a while as this whole impact of COVID gets fully resolved in the way of the project moves forward. And we do recognize that the entire community is interested and is awaiting when exactly we will be commissioning and when exactly we'll be handing over to operations. So we do intend to keep everybody informed. You heard from Keith just a little bit ago as a reminder of the announcement of opportunity for getting engaged with commissioning. I know today is one of the deadlines, but I'll just remind everybody to keep informed on that. And also, Lauren pointed out the trajectory for the education and public outreach team. And I just wanted to, even though it's more than just a couple of months, I do want to emphasize her comments about the fact that that whole team is bringing many years of work to a conclusion over the next year. And we're really looking forward to seeing a lot of those really awesome tools getting out and starting to be used. So that's just a really fast look at what's been going on and a little look forward. I also want to take the opportunity to remind everybody that we appreciate all of the enthusiasm that this group, everybody listening here, everybody that's part of the Rubin/LSST community, to keep talking about our opportunities. Tell your friends, your colleagues. It is through word of mouth and through all of those communications that we get a really good, robust set of candidates to choose from. And here's just a list of some of the current open positions. And of course, LSST.org hiring is the place to go to see more about these positions. So again, thanks to everybody for participating this week. There's a tremendous number of people. We heard some of the scribes or some of the assignees for giving us the summaries today, but there's a bunch of facilitators and a lot of presenters that made all of these sessions not only possible, but really clearly a very fruitful and great engagement. So thanks to all of you for doing that. And of course, the slide for the main organizing committee. It's probably not a surprise to you all about the amount of effort that it takes behind the scenes, and my personal thanks to all of these people for making this a great session. Also, volunteers, if you were worried about your electronics, then there was the Zoom prep room, and several people were available to help you out with that. And that's just another example of the people behind the scenes helping out with the logistics of running a meeting like this. The Slack channels were fun to watch, not just the Rubin channels to see all of the great interactions, but also the space that was there for each one of the sessions. And so this was a reminder to all of you to, if you made contact with people, get that contact. We don't promise that those channels will stay in place forever. And so while you're thinking about it, go back and pull the contacts out so that you can continue with that engagement and work on that community. Finally, this is, one of the things that we really miss without being able to be here and have a physical PCW is the opportunity for us to hand out a little bit of swag that we try to get out every year. But there is an opportunity for you all to have access to these items yourself. So go onto the online store. It's a Cafe Express hosted site, but you can get to it by the https ls.st swag shortener and have fun with that. I can already see that lots of people have been active and been getting their own versions of the swag, and that's really fun to see. There will be another exit survey. We do very much appreciate hearing from you all about how the week went, what went well, what didn't go so well, what suggestions you have for the way we can go forward. And so please do get us some feedback. I can tell you that we do take that in, and we will try to consider those thoughtfully for how we organize the next PCW or other events like it. So thank you in advance for any of that feedback. So right now I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and offer the floor to Steve.
So thanks, Victor, and let me also convey my personal thanks to all of you for making this a truly fantastic experience. The week was quite eventful, many excellent talks and great interactions. I think after a year and a half of COVID, we're learning how to communicate by this new means, but that was great. It's with some sadness that I will tell you that this will be my last PCW meeting as the director of the Rubin Observatory Construction Project. Effective in the spring of 2022, I will step down as director. I am taking on the position of Dean of Mathematical and Physical Sciences at UC Berkeley. So that's a new opportunity that will be starting at that time. Aura is discussing the succession plan for the construction project. That's in progress. And at SLAC, the camera team, residual camera team effort will be led by Aaron Rubin, who some of you may know. Of course, it's with some sorrow that I leave the project prior to the completion of construction. It was my intention, having started this 18 or 19 years ago, that I would see it through to the end. But things have progressed the way they've progressed. In any case, we have an outstanding team. I think many of you have witnessed them directly during this meeting, and I have full confidence that we will proceed through the end of construction and on into operations to achieve the wonderful science that Rubin was first designed to do. So thank all of you for attending, and I wish you the best for the future.
Well, on behalf of everybody listening, the whole project, the entire community, thanks, Steve, for all of your efforts over those 18 years. I've only been with you for 17 of them, but they've been great. And I'm sure we'll have lots of opportunities over the next 6 to 8 months to express those thanks, hopefully in person. But at least for now, let me, on behalf of everybody, and you can start seeing some of the emojis showing up on the screen that express that same thoughts. So one last comment then is to talk about next year. And I will point out that we said this last year. We'll say it again this year, that it is our intention to have a PCW in 2022. We expect to be able to do that in person. We will have it at the Ritz-Carlton in Dove Mountain, just north of Tucson. Of course, you have to look out for some more details, but for now, the week of 8 to 12 August 2022 is that week. And we look forward to seeing everybody, hopefully in person. A great week. So that's all we had for a closeout. Once again, particular thanks to Rampal for a significant amount of the heavy lifting of that organizing committee. And we look forward to another PCW and another year.